This video is simply to go over briefly the recording studio policies, procedures, and documentation folder, because you need to sign the signature sheet at the back of this so that I know you've read this and understand what it says, so that as we move along, if we have any misunderstandings about things, your signature says that you got this. So I'm just going to read through the important things. If you really want to be meticulous, you can read it through word for word. Here we go. Basically, it starts off with the recording studio usage agreement, which is a Principia generic thing that says basically you'll adhere to the standards of Principia and Christian Science. You won't create content which defames or libels anyone or the organization, and that you have read the policies and procedures document which follows that, and that the consequences of not doing these things or not following these rules is that you could lose your keys and then not be able to use the studio. And then also that you should adhere to policy 10 from the education of the Principia that reads, teaching at the Principia shall emphasize the point of view that education carries with it the obligation to use technical skills and intellectual attainments for the betterment of humanity. All right, so the big bullet point paragraph at the beginning here is kind of important for you to understand if you're new to the recording studio, so I'll read it. The Music Production Association, that's the Recording Studio Club, is a Principia College student club that operates inside the Principia College recording studio, which is managed by the Media Services Center. So Media Services is right over there, and we've got a TV studio and green screen room and edit suites and all kinds of stuff. From time to time, special needs or academic use of the studio may take precedent over club use. So that applies to people in the class near the end of the semester. If they have projects they need to get done, then I send out an email about that, and they can trump other people using the studio. And if they need to take over the space just to get things done, they can do that. So, or any other thing that comes up, like there's a class that needs to use the space. If you had scheduled studio time, you might be asked to give it up for that. But of course, we're cool about it. We'll figure all that out. Media Services remains the governing department over the space and should be involved regarding all issues and or modifications of structure and equipment. In other words, the school relies on Media Services to keep the recording studio functioning and available. And I'm the direct contact. Darren Pierce is your direct contact. Principia College may grant or deny permission for use of the recording studio to any person at its discretion as needed. We had to add that clause. All equipment in the recording studio is considered share and share alike. However, for the sake of record keeping, equipment that has been purchased by the club is labeled with a yellow MPA sticker for Music Production Association. All other equipment belongs to Media Services Department unless it is the property of an individual and appropriately marked or known to be. Other recording equipment and microphones may be checked out from the Media Services, but they must be returned to Media Services by the agreed upon time frame so that Media Services can use them for whatever they use them for. So the reason for the share and share alike policy is that if you bring personal equipment into the recording studio, we can't guarantee that it won't be used. So we've simply made the rule that if he brings it in here, then it's allowed to be used like anything that's in here. You can ask people to not use it, and that's as good as it gets, and they're pretty cool about that, but unfortunately, things happen to people's gear, and the school can't be responsible for it. So you just know that if you keep special guitars or equipment in here, that it's likely going to get used. The recording studio is available 24/7 to people with keys, so there's no way of tracking that kind of thing. So the other thing is we don't want the recording studio to become a storage facility. We don't have a storage space. We don't have closets or anything. That's why there's cardboard boxes in here. So I discourage people from leaving their personal equipment here. Just the gear that the recording studio has should be in here ideally. But, we'll navigate it as it goes. So that's it. Now we'll just kind of roll through these. You can read them later, but you want to respect the space. You want to clean up after yourself. Maybe leave it better than it was when you got here. You don't want to have any uncapped liquids. Even capped liquids should sit back here, not near the keyboard and the microphone preamplifiers and equipment. It's just not worth the risk of spilling water on something. And please remove all dishes, even if they're not yours. People might leave dishes. All someone you got to do is put them out in the hallway, and it's better than them being in here because it brings mice. People leave trash and food and stuff. I've taken pictures of live mice on the floor. We don't want that. So live mice. Yeah, so don't do that. And then, of course, report all problems to me. So don't hesitate to dial my extension. It forwards to my cell. You can leave a message or whatever, 5177, and or my email, darren.pierce@principia.edu. Always use the scheduler to schedule or log your time. Like if you're here, put it on there. You got to do that. And then please don't move anything. Everything is kind of locked down. The video monitors are placed, and the speakers have been measured out and marked, so we don't want to move those things. And other things are made to move, and you can know that, like the keyboards. But and then don't shut down the computer because it's got a glitch and it's really hard to turn back on. You can restart it by going to restart, and that's fine, but you just want to, when you're done working, just leave it. Don't put it to sleep or anything. It won't come back easily because there's a problem in the switch relay, and so we just leave it on 24/7. The recording studio has a setup that's a default setup. You always want to leave it that way if possible, with the drum set up as a 5-piece kit in the center, the microphone stands against the far back left corner, and the piano on the right, and all the cables on the pegs, and the guitar amps up front, and and all extraneous equipment in the back right corner neatly so that the space is open so people can set things up and do things. Please don't go behind the desk. You can reach underneath the desk to get things that might have rolled back there, like pens or hot dogs, but you can reach them from underneath. But if you go back there, you're definitely going to mess something up seriously, so don't do that. And I've even had people mess with the subwoofer settings and stuff. Man, I have spent hours calibrating this equipment. Please don't change those knobs that aren't supposed to be changed. Of course, you can use the monitor control unit to do whatever you need to do. Then there's the making sure the equipment's always off. Only turning it on when you're using it, and then turning it back off when you're done. And then the Avid I/O device at the bottom that's behind plexiglass, that should always be on because nothing works without that. The Soundcraft mixing console over to my right is very old, and it should always be left off unless needed because it will probably die any day. Its power supply, it's like 35 years old. So then the rest of these things have a recording plan. You can read about that. You definitely want to watch your scheduled time and extend it if you're going to go beyond and so on. Here's a big one though: no jamming or rehearsing. This is a recording studio, not the Jam Factory. I know this semester the Jam Factory may not be accessible, but we can't bend on this rule. Otherwise, this will become a rehearsal space and it'll be a mess. We won't be able to get any recording done in here, and it's a bad slippery slope. So we have to say no to all rehearsing or jamming because we can't say yes to any of it. So if you feel you need to rehearse, this is the workaround. If you feel you need to rehearse something, then you need to set up your mics and record your rehearsal. Then at least it's considered a recording session. If you're not willing to go to that effort, you definitely shouldn't be doing it here. Then you don't want to play the instruments unless you're recording them. The drum heads, we have new ones all the time are put on there. They're maybe tuned for a session, so playing them just messes all of that up. Also, the piano gets tuned on a regular basis and needs to be in tune when we go to record it. If you just play it for fun, it knocks it out of tune, and that's a big waste. And it'll mess up someone's recording because we're not going to be able to have it tuned on the spot. So that's a big one. Please don't play those two instruments unless you're recording, drums or piano. Another big one, please do not share or loan out your keys or let somebody in who doesn't have keys to the studio, because you may not know whether they have keys or not. And they don't know all these rules, and they haven't signed this form, and things happen. And it's a bad deal, and it's a big rule of campus security that you're never supposed to loan your keys. So I just let them know that that's happened, and they'll recall your keys. We've had people let somebody into the studio because they thought that they already had studio keys. It wasn't true. You need to know, and that person got in trouble. So you need to know. It's a big deal. Don't just let people in, unless you know what you're doing, because that could be problematic. And again, immediately report all problems. Additionally, this is the final thing. Please do not modify the input-output settings in the computer, in the sound settings. It's set to the Pro Tools box down there, and the computer preferences should be set to internal speaker for output and line in for input. The output could also be line out. I think I have a cable coming here. That's for the computer, like for Spotify or Chrome or something like that, a web browser. And then for Pro Tools software itself, the playback engine should be set to native HD. If anything else is set to native HD, it'll cause Pro Tools to crash. So please just don't modify that stuff or ask for my help. that's it. The signature page looks like this. I've got a fresh one in here for this year, at least this fall, but we'll use it all year. Please sign it, and that's it. Thank you.